What do you learn in there? Like, I mean, I feel like I'm a lot better after going in there one time. How many times did you fight?
I was 7-1 as an amateur, and then now I'm 6-3 as a pro. So
Damn.
yeah,
17 fights.
Yeah, so about that. But
when did you start feeling comfortable?
this fight right here.
That took you that many fights to feel comfortable. What's up, YouTube? Welcome to this epic podcast, Blue Collar Boardroom. Got the commish, the Blue Collar Fight Club, yes, McFunkmaster, and up-and-coming fighter, soon to be in the UFC, Mr. Chuck Radtke, man. Welcome, brother. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys as well, too. Thank you.
Yes, man. How'd you get the nickname the Buffalo?
Oh, man.
Buffalo.
Chuck Buffalo. So I actually grew up on a Bison Ranch with my grandfather, and it was just something on a day-to-day basis that so I was living down in Florida. This is a kind of a story that I got to get into. So I lived up north where I was born, and then I moved back down to Florida. And when I was living in Florida, I stayed there till I was about 18, and just things weren't going as well. I was kind of getting into scuffles and fights. My brother was well, and he actually got sent up before I did. So at that time, there was kind of like an opening at doing like a farmer's market, certain things like that. So I moved back up north with my grandfather. And when I had moved up there, we started doing farmers markets, and he's an old sergeant major in the Marine Corps, and basically just started working on our Bison Ranch, and then had some dogs out there, and that's basically the story behind the name Chuck Buffalo.
Hell yeah, good old boy found his way to a gym and now is kicking people's ass.
Yeah.
You know, got a bit of a reputation across South Florida as an up-and-comer bad boy per se.
Yeah.
You got a lot of people out there. You know, we're gonna go through some fights, but the coolest thing about what we're gonna cover today in this episode is we're gonna dive into Jake Paul and this Hasim Rahman and if he pulled out and what you think if that guy Jake just released some sparring footage. We're gonna break it down and I want your take on it. I watched it yesterday.
Yeah.
You know,
First of all, how would you do in a boxing match against Jake Paul?
I would destroy Jake Paul.
I think you would too, man.
He went against the guy that was at MMA Masters, Colin, and Colin did well against him, and I do pretty good against Colin. So
yeah.
if I could say it, probably stomp him within a round.
You know, it's funny. He says you did pretty well against him. I've never gone to a gym with Charlie and seen him not do pretty well or better against everyone in there. And I'm talking about guys that you watch on TV on pay-per-view events and making them look like amateurs. So people need to be on the lookout for this
he
guy.
does have a thing about fighting MMA fighters. He just thinks all MMA fighters can't box.
Yeah, the only thing is Jake Paul with what he has, he's got so much behind him right now that he would never look at a guy like me for a fight, right? But that would be good for him because if you were to compete against a guy like me, it would inevitably end up one way, you get knocked out cold.
Yeah, it wouldn't look good because you do put people to
in the
sleep.
shadow realm, guys.
Yeah.
We're going to go through
Yeah.
some of these fights, but you know, really what's cool about where Chuck is right now in his journey is basically this is right before maybe the biggest fight of your life. You know, you've had a couple of those too. You've had good results, and you know, this is a journey. How long you been on this journey?
12 years.
12 years, man.
Yes, I started at 19.
And man, I'll tell you, there's a top 1% of fighters, but there's that level up inside of that 1%. Can you talk about the razor's edge and the difference and what it means to actually make it to the top?
Yeah, I think it's just the sweat the small stuff. It really comes down to even when you come home and you put your shoes down, do you keep the shoes straight or are the shoes just thrown on the floor? And that comes down to every single detail. The details make the big difference. So from my nutrition, from the way I train, also the way I feel about the training, the way I feel about the food, all these things, they all matter. So it's just really about sweating the small stuff and making sure that your lifestyle, it's not just what you do in the gym, but it's also what you do outside the gym as well, too, that matters.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah,
Tim Grover talks about how guys like Clark Kent, is Clark Kent really Clark Kent? Is Clark Kent Superman?
Yeah.
Clark Kent Superman.
Well, what you said was really cool is you said how you feel about the foods,
Yeah.
how you feel about the training.
Yeah.
Just dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's you got a guy like Travis Stevenson. Travis Stevenson eats Snickers bars and somehow wins an Olympic silver medal, right? That's not a standard way to have a diet plan, right? But it works for him. And so if you have a certain way that you eat food, right, it could be organic, it could be this, it really just matters about the thought of eating the food. If I feel like this coffee that I'm drinking is going to make me feel better and make me do better, then that is all that matters. If I feel like this training with Cosmo or training with this person, Mike Valley, whoever it may be, if I feel like that is going to take me to the next level and I truly believe it, then that's really all that matters.
So it's more about winning in your psyche and believing, okay, this is good for me. I'm making the right decisions.
Yeah.
I'm disciplined enough to make the steps towards accomplishing my goals as opposed to doing things that maybe you feel are detrimental to your success.
Yeah.
So let's get into the controversy to kind of unpack this. Like, you almost got this notorious image here.
Yeah.
One of my friends actually is friends with somebody that you put to the shadow realm. And then
R.I.P.
And then let's dive into this first fight a little bit. Was it your first fight on the UFC Fight Pass?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so this was like this was a really meaningful fight too, because this was a fight heading into it was kind of do or die, because there had been maybe some mixed results that wasn't so fond of, but this fight just had something behind it. I just felt like I had to put on a performance to really establish myself as that guy, right?
But what you're talking about is, like, at 155, the weight cut sucked. You got beat in the second round after 10-8. Now the answer has been just go ahead and fight at 170.
Yeah.
And let's look at the results of that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is Brandon Lopez. This is that first CFFC fight.
And also, before this fight, Brandon Lopez was...
What happened in the first round?
So in the first round... that was brutal.
God.
Jesus.
Teed up.
First round, it was, in my eyes, it could have even been a 10-8. So, but before this fight, he was down.
What's the animosity here?
That was because it was a do or die for me.
Oh, okay.
And everybody in the crowd, it was all Lopez. Lopez sold over $20,000 in tickets for that fight.
Oh, God.
And so all this crowd, people
He's from
were like,
Tampa, isn't
yeah,
he?
everybody's like, "Fuck you!" You put like everybody's telling me this. So that's why I did that. Afterwards, I had two people in the crowd for me. It was Levi and Tyson. Right?
You said your sister was giving you a hard time.
Yeah, my sister was giving me a hard time.
People were threatening her and stuff.
Yeah, I was supposedly threatening her. But it was
funny. One of my buddies is friends with him. Shout out to my friend Sean.
Sorry about your friend.
Thanks, Sean, for the easy fight.
Man, that's
but yeah, so he was actually gambling. He was gambling down in the casino before the fight.
Like
and what I thought was really interesting is that I show up whenever
This fool was gambling before the fight?
I'm not kidding. He was downstairs gambling, and people were messaging me, telling me, right, that he was doing
Instead
that.
of
But they weren't messaging me. They were messaging my brother or someone else, because I turned my phone off. Mm-hmm. And so I'm laughing. I'm like, he's fucked.
You know what Kamaru Usman said when I interviewed him? He said, dude, a fight is won like the last 2-3 hours before you go into the phase. Basically, it's the mindset and the focus of the fighter over the last 2 or 3 hours going into the fight.
Yeah.
And do you think that there's some relevance to that?
I was listening to Marcus Aurelius meditating before I headed out to the fight event. So yeah, it's 100% right, because your mind starts tricking you. Why are you doing this? Should you even be
my
there?
God, bro. I was thinking literally get my hands wrapped up like, what the are you doing here?
You don't need to do this.
I don't need to do this. I'm like, dude, you could just quit. You could just walk out the back door. I literally am thinking, you pussy ass bitch having this thought right here when you got these people here.
Would you say it's important to remember to give yourself affirmations and things of that nature? I know one thing that you've instilled in me, that I've used for life and for this fight career that I just started, is to wake up in the morning, watch people that motivate you, like Tim Grover, 10 Rules of Success, Kobe Bryant, and write down affirmations in a notebook. Tell me a little bit more about that, because something you do.
Yeah, for sure. I think that there's something behind waking up in the morning, because you're most influenced early in the morning before you go to bed. So if you can wake up and you can have a routine set, and then you can also listen to something positive, but listening to something isn't just going to do it. When you write it down, makes it more intentional. And then even when you write it down, you pick out your 3 favorite quotes of the day. That is going to impact you for the rest of the day. And some people even take it further. They'll write down a little card, they'll put it in their pocket, and you ever had the times where you shuffle and you're like, oh, what's in my pocket? What was that quote for the day? And that brings you intention for the day. So that's a huge part of my routine, is like making sure that I do that 10 rules of success every single day. And before the fights, he's been there. I'll have it blasting Tim Grover, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all these people, because I believe that everything that you're digesting before a fight is going to make an impact. So, like, if this guy is over here gambling and I'm listening to Marcus Aurelius and listening to Kobe Bryant, all these people, it's going to make that difference. Even if it's that little bit of a difference.
Dude, just being quiet with yourself versus being around people and around a bunch of noise. Like, even if you were just listening to meditation music, focused, it's the concept of, I don't need to focus and think about that right now versus I'm fully focused. Are you doing visualizations or do you think about how you're going to go or execute your game plan?
So for the last fight, I was actually sleeping, and I remember I was just, fighting in the air because I was visualizing it so hard. I'm visualizing the fight, but I'm like, you're in that half awake sleep state, and I'm just like I'm punching in the air. But yeah, I'm visualizing all the time before it. But that's how I do it. I don't do it like a lot of other people do. I can never figure this out. People will sit there and they'll do crisscross applesauce, and then they'll just do a meditation, right? Or they'll do visualization. I don't do that. What I will do is I'll go into a state of mind to where I'm about to be sleeping, and then I'll start thinking about the fight, because as the fight gets closer, you get more intense thinking about it. And I can literally visualize it from when I'm in the back, even arriving to the arena, all the way through to when the fight's going to happen, because I fought at the Hard Rock now 3 times, so I can go through that whole routine like the back of my hand. So by the time I'm doing this, I'm so cool and relaxed, I can pass out in the back and go to sleep until I'm up to fight.
Dude, last time you had a last-minute change of fights, you planned for a pretty tough fight. You were going to fight for the title. You had a tough fight, and then you backed out.
Yeah, and that was sad too, because for both of us, Eric was 7-0, and we had animosity built up between the two of us, and it was for the main event, for a title. Everybody would have been watching. I felt the pressure. I'm sure he felt the pressure, but it became too much pressure to him that he started making excuses, which was familiar to what Felipe had done over this past weekend. It got him nervous, so he decided that he's going to make excuses. Oh, well, the back room isn't big enough, and, my ankle kind of hurts, and you guys are going to have to pay for my gas while I'm down there. And the people are like, we're a regional scene. We can't pay for all these things. So he was looking for a reason out. And the sad part is, if that fight would have happened, that would have set either one of us to the Contender Series. So it was selfish on his part, but the kid who stepped up to the plate.
Dude, let's check out homie with
before we
Mullet
watch
Man
this
came
highlight,
out with some style.
Bravo.
He had a little weird,
Hey,
unorthodox. Did it make you nervous when he was looking at you? all goofy?
No.
I don't know. I see his all guard like this. I'm thinking, what? This is about to end ugly.
Yeah, no.
Let's
it was
before we get into this video of this fight, shout out to
said
Caleb Crump for giving Charlie a matchup, man, because nobody wants to fight this guy. His management has a hard time finding him matchups with a whole 8-week camp in advance. Nobody wants to fight this guy right now. He's sending people to the Shadow Realm, right? And Caleb stepped up short notice and gave him an opponent and gave him an opportunity to show what he can do. So,
and not just that, but at the end of the day, we don't get paid a lot of money for this. So if a guy backs out, then all the money we spent on the camp goes away for nothing.
Right.
And Caleb had to fight a week later, so it wasn't like he was in shape or anything.
Yeah, he was prepared for another opponent. His guy had also
and this was also the best I felt too, because I felt like I was really calm. I was in the zone, and I felt like I was coming into my own too, where I'm watching him too, and I'm thinking to myself, I was like, if he keeps drooping that left hand or his right hand back down, I'm just gonna clip him. But I just had to wait, because he throws this really weird loopy left hand. Yeah, because he's southpaw. Yeah. So he and my guy Chris was imitating him perfectly. And the first few times he was throwing it, he was catching me at weird angles, and I was like, I don't know how he's hitting me.
Chris
with
is Significant Strikes, man. Chris is awesome.
Yeah, Chris is awesome.
Franks is the man.
He got the shit beat out of him for that camp. They said while we were
as real as they come, though, man.
Yeah, right. We were hanging out and going to a gym.
That body kick keeps him.
Ooh.
Oh.
Man, I was.
But
so
that
surprised.
body kick kept him corralled.
Yeah.
Look at this composure, though. This is something you've learned over the last 2 fights.
Just to chill, wait, because that's what he was gonna do. I knew he was gonna come back off and he was gonna throw a punch off.
Remember?
Yeah.
We worked that.
Yeah. And then I was just hunting him down. I was like, I knew you could see in my face, like I was just zoned in. I was waiting for him to make that mistake, and I'm like, oh well, I really don't have too much to worry about other than if I over pursue him.
Man, this is what makes you special, is this ability to stalk right at range and keep the pressure.
And also, even that block right there, my coach was like, when you hit the block, you stay in the pocket. That really makes people concerned.
And Cosmo, that's his bread and butter.
Ooh, that was a quick stuff. They don't want to fuck with old Charlie on the ground.
People don't.
And that's
really
what
know
people
that
are.
yet.
I think people are now thinking that I'm just a striker.
Look at these feints, man. That's so beautiful. Oh,
Oh,
And it was weird too because it sounded like a shotgun went off in the building.
God damn.
you know, I've had a lot of people that maybe don't train. Or haven't
Listen. The post fight interview was hilarious, man. It was good.
yeah. Oh, dude, it was the best.
Yeah.
Chuck Buffalo is mobile. He's kissing people in the crowd.
Yeah. I mean, and he was.
Man, it was a scary sight though, because he started seizing. This is the second guy now that hasn't been able to stand up next to the ref while you get your hand raised.
Yeah. What was even funnier was like even when like they had the cameras on me and stuff, and Rob Haight is the basically the CEO. He's like the Dana White of this promotion.
Yeah.
I said I'm Rob Haight's new favorite fighter. You know, like and
Rob
you could
told
hear
me
me
that
just
after the
talking.
fight.
You could hear me just talking shit into the camera the whole time.
It's hilarious.
Man, Caleb was still down there.
Yeah.
Seizing up.
I actually reached out to him too, and I just
good.
wanted to tell him how much I appreciate that he took the fight on short notice. I mean, this should have been for Alcuin, and Alcuin knew inevitably this.
In the
was
past, would you have jumped on him right then?
yeah, for sure.
I mean, because he was down there, you could have jumped on him.
yeah, I would have went nuts, and that
Your
was
new
the whole.
composure
Yeah.
ever since Piersma.
Yeah, because that
what
was the
happened.
issue, and like,
What do you learn in there? Like, I mean, I feel like I'm a lot better after going in there one time. How many times did you fight?
I had like I was 7-1 as an amateur, and then now I'm 6-3 as a pro. So
Damn.
yeah,
17 fights.
Yeah, so about that, but
When did you start feeling comfortable?
this fight right here.
That took you that many fights to feel comfortable.
That's why
Holy
this was so.
shit.
That's why this was so different. Was because like the Piersman fight, I was excited. You know, I was like, I feel like I gotta make that what happened with the Lopez fight. I have to recreate in this fight, and then this one, I was just like, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. So just allow the because when John Morgan was like, how are you gonna beat this guy? Whatever presents itself.
All right, so let's go into the UFC a little bit. We got some crazy matchups. If you're watching this, dude, we have a way that you can win a trip with us to UFC 278. I rented a private jet. We got floor seats. It's a $50,000 prize that you could win. All you have to do is type in UFC 278. At UFC 278, Kamaru Usman, Leon Edwards. We got striker. Usman in and of itself, he's got the hands too, but he's really a wrestler. What do you see in this matchup?
I don't think it's going to be any different. I mean, the only way that Usman can make it more difficult on himself if he decides to stand with him, because that's the only way that Edwards has any opportunity to win the fight. If Usman takes it to the floor, it's going to be like the first fight between the two, where it's just going to be Usman on top of him, grinding him out. It just depends if Usman wants to make it exciting and make it pleasurable for the crowd. But I just think it's going to be.
I actually have this weird feeling that Usman retires after this fight.
That's what Cosmo was saying, but hey, I want to give you some advice about Usman. So, Cosmo's his boy, and Cosmo recommends me to go make a deal with him, right? And
Yeah.
so, going to his house, I know I'm trying to play out the scenarios because, he basically says, Cosmo, a couple people hit me up about Solar. I'm the champ. I could get a sponsor. And so, I didn't know what kind of deal we were going to be able to make, what it was going to do. I get there, and, this is like his inner circle, and he's inviting me into his house. Cosmo's his trainer, so, he's like, who the fuck are you? Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And, I sit there and I go through the pitch, and I tell him, like, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and I basically make him an offer that I would equal the amount of money he spent with me with him. And what he did? He was cool, calm, and collected, very respectful, took care of business, heard me out. He didn't give me, like, a yes or a no. But he did go back to his team. And that's the one thing, like, when I asked him, what was your most important part in business? What's the most important lesson that you learned from your dad? I asked him this in front of a lot of people. He's like, well, I learned from my dad that, in a business deal that you don't just make immediate rash decisions, that you always go back to your trusted advisors, run it past them, and then go and present your solution. And I said, well, that got you about twice as much on this deal, didn't it? Because when they hit me back with a second offer, it sounded like a good deal to him, and basically he'd agreed to it in principle, but after his team looked at it, he had his agent involved, he had his different people involved. They got more benefits and perks out of the deal, and he was basically, I'm saying, your people, your boys, friends, and family, they're going to bring opportunities to you.
Yeah. Same
Same thing with Dustin Poirier. I reached out to Tim. Tim brought me to Dustin. And I'm sure a lot of times in conversations like, hey, I got this friend, or hey, hook me up with this thing. And as long as you have a agent or a second party or a trusted advisor to go to, and you don't try to say that decision is yours, you just trust their decision, then it doesn't have to be you telling somebody that you can't do them a favor.
Yeah.
Because as far as Tim was concerned, if Dustin was in Florida at the same time, he would have, probably talked him into doing it for a reasonable amount. Ended up paying $70,000 for an appearance. Kamaru ended up getting 6 figures more than I offered for the influencer deal.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a lesson that like there's gonna be a lot of people asking for favors, but you gotta get team. You changed management. Who's your new manager?
Sucker Punch.
Nice.
So actually,
what made you pick those guys?
I mean, they just do a much better job. I actually had a personal relationship with Brian in the past when I worked at Jeff Kearns.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was over there, Sucker Punch was everybody's manager, right? And then he came back down to MMA Masters, and it was like I saw Jeff Kern, and I saw him. It was kind of like it brought back old memories. And I wasn't having a great time with First Round. First Round has a bunch of people underneath their contracts, so they can't just – they got Jorge Masvidal. They're worried about those people. They're not worried about me. Mm-hmm. But I know Brian. And so then Brian reaches out to me and says, oh, I know Rob Haight. I could get you like double the amount that you were getting before. So when he showed me the amount of money that I was going to get paid, that's inevitably what gave it to me. And plus, Brian has been – amazing since I started working with them too. Like,
hell yeah, man. So both of us fought on the same card, first fight ever. But as far as cage fight goes, this man's been doing a bunch of competition his whole life. What was your advice to him going into it? Kind of like the
it was only one thing: stay calm and stay composed. If you could do that, I told him composure is going to be the key to victory. That's all I said. Because for a guy fighting on his first fight, you're going to tell him to throw all these combinations and do this? No. Focus on just being as calm as you possibly can. Because the guy who he fought only had maybe, 2 more fights than you or something?
No, he was 4-0-1 in MMA and 4-1 in kickboxing. So he actually had
9 more fights than him.
Yeah.
And I still think that, like what we said here, like it takes you so many fights to get comfortable in there that he still wasn't as comfortable. But he's going to be more comfortable than Levi, especially if Levi hasn't ever fought MMA.
He wasn't very comfortable when he saw me.
So composure was my only advice to him.
Yeah.
Stay composed.
Well, what have you learned most from Charlie? How has he kind of took you on as a big brother in this journey? And what's your goals as a fighter?
Man, what's funny? So some context to how I met Charlie. I was kind of a big fish in the grappling room in a small pond at Evolution. And I had just come back into this kind of sporting world after getting medically retired from football and wrestling in college. And I was a fat boy, and I was just beating up on guys that maybe weren't the same level of athlete as me, and that's the truth. And Charlie walked in one day, and we ended up partnering up, and we scrapped, man, and he put it on me. And I was like, okay, there's levels to this. And then we became closer. I started to learn about him, and I had a lot of respect for him. And then he pretty much kept it more real with me than anyone else and was just like, dude, you're screwing yourself over. You're not taking care of yourself. You're eating the wrong stuff. You just don't care. It's not that you're just falling apart. It's not that you can't do it. You just don't care. And it lit a fire in me as a competitor, as an athlete, to start doing the right things. I mean, the way that I eat, the way that I supplement and treat my body and take care of myself, and the way I've changed my life, I owe it all to that guy. And now I'm launching a supplement line, Cardio Plus, with the Amazing Wellness crew, and he's actually going to be a part of it. But that's the cornerstone for my life, is to take care of me first. And that doesn't mean just take care of me and worry about myself. No, physically go out and actively take care of my health and wellness. All of the things you experience, that dopamine and serotonin, right? 95% of that serotonin comes from your gut flora. This guy was the one that had me doing gut cleanses and probiotics and making sure I was taking care of myself. If you look at a picture of me 2 years ago when I first started, back in the grappling room, and you look at me now and you hear me talk then, you hear me talk now, it's a different person. Yeah. So all of it. I would never have competed in jiu-jitsu. I would never have competed in MMA. I would never have had those successes. I wouldn't have the same. I would have never met you probably. I wouldn't be sitting here today. And it's been great. So that's why I was really excited about getting him on the podcast, because I think a lot of people know Chuck Buffalo, the middle finger, flicking the crowd off, knocking the guys out with left hands, calling them pussies guy. But what they don't realize is that this guy is a health and wellness genie. He lives and breathes this world, this life. You know what I mean? And that's why I ultimately have so much confidence in his ability to move forward with this sport, because I've never seen someone so dedicated to it.
Hey, man, let me tell you something. I can take that dedication and say, look, if you're going to take fighting that seriously, I got to take business and life and, whatever I'm doing to that same degree. And it's talking about the little details, talking about how you feel about things. When you cut corners, you don't have the same belief in yourself. When you cut corners, you start to lack that extra confidence factor. And, we have this UFC jet mastermind, and you're like, what are you doing? Going on a jet, hanging out, going to fights, talking about business. Well, it all works together. Talking about visualization, talking about the finer details, talking about being afraid going into the fight, and then inside the fight, not knowing what's going to happen, but be excited about the obstacle you face. Like for me, I didn't train against one person southpaw. I didn't spar against nobody southpaw. I had really I've got a couple of people that I've sparred with in the past, but in the fight camp, I had no idea the guy was left-handed. So when we saw him warming up left-handed, it's like, there's a curveball.
Oh, yeah.
And sure enough, my fucking right hand, it just has to do with where I was standing.
And I know how that is, too. Like, I fought this guy, Jeffrey Pell, and we never knew that he was southpaw. It's when he stands in front of you, how awkward was it?
It was awkward, dude.
Yeah.
And he fucking was getting the better of me in the first exchanges.
Yeah.
And, the one thing about it was I didn't know what it felt like to get hit with 10-ounce gloves, and much less 4-ounce gloves. I still don't know. The idea was most of the time I've been hit with 16-ounce gloves. There's a sparring helmet, or we're doing some sort of 80%. It's a different feeling. And from that moment, watching that fight, there was a moment where one thing Billy talks about, my boxing coach, is if you're ever under pressure, just get low and come with a 3-4 and go back and forth. And I know that's not good in some MMA moments, but this guy wasn't throwing too many kicks. And from that moment, kind of switched for me. But my problem was once I almost knocked him out or got some shots, I got so excited that in the second round it was dumped. It was over. My energy was gone.
Yeah.
And from the amount of adrenaline from being afraid, from the amount of adrenaline from getting excited.
Yeah.
It was all happening in the...
Because you're thinking, I'm going to get that knockout.
Yeah, at first I was like, I'm going to get fucked up. And then I was thinking, I'm going to knock him out.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, fuck, the round's over.
Yeah.
What I got to say, though, and shout out to Combat Night, because I love Mitch. I love Combat Night, premier promotion in Florida. But holy shit, that cage is tiny.
Oh, yeah.
And what happens? You're constantly in range. And what do you do when you're in range and someone's slinging guns at you?
Yeah.
You're holding your breath, right? You can't be just taking big, deep breaths when a guy's right in your face, right? So you get to the end of the first round, and you took like 4 breaths, and you're like, man, fuck, the pressure's really on in the Combatagon, bro. It's a tiny little cage.
It's so small, and it's like it favors the wrestlers, and it doesn't make for an exciting fight because it's just so close quarters.
Yes, it does.
But I mean... It's kind of like the Apex, right? Like you get 2 big heavyweights, and they're just gonna have to fight. Like there's nowhere to run.
Yeah.
So,
like Muhammad Usman, just putting
speaking of that, dude, holy
shadow
shit,
realm.
he went to sleep. Last UFC card, 11 people put down. There were some good knockouts. What was your? What do you think the best fight of the card was?
Best fight of the card? Man, that's tough because the truth. I mean. The
best
Vicente
performance.
Luque, I
Was
mean,
the
Jeff
best
Neal
performance was
knocking
the
out
best-
Vicente Luque
Jeff
has
Neal was
got to
the
be
best-
the
best
performance of the
performance.
night. Brian Battle's head kick to Takashi Soto, that was beautiful. Man, there was a bunch of good fights. I like Brian Battle a lot, Ultimate Fighter guy, but I don't know, man. I watched a couple of these 70-pounders, and I just keep thinking about Charlie.
Oh, Charlie's gonna fuck him up, man. I tell you what, it's amazing because Dustin, he walks around about like 189. He's kind of he's a big.
You know what's really funny about that is like so everybody is always saying like it's like that one thing where people are like, how much you weighing right now? They're like, well, I'm like 183 or something like that. They got on the scale, they're 189. How many times you hear that? There was something that came out where they said that Dustin Poirier was like walking at 183 pounds, and he said that he wasn't in shape or anything. I knew that was full of shit. I knew that he walked around somewhere like 89, 90.
Yeah.
And that's such a frequent thing. And like he is a big 155er. And you can see when he starts getting down to that weight class that he really does suck himself out and he's drained about it. But you ever think to yourself, if you are deciding to go down that low of a weight class, is it maybe like a mental disability? The fact that you feel like you need the edge so bad that you're trying to diminish the technical side of things? I know because I had to go through it. I'm like, I'm going to get the edge on him because I'm bigger than them.
Yeah.
What about the technique? What about like the Frankie Edgar philosophy when he fought at 55?
Mm-hmm.
That's what people should really be focusing on because if you lose, oh, well, he's stronger than me, so I need to go down to 145.
Well, it's like Gilbert Burns.
Yeah, I got to go to 145 pounds.
Yeah.
You don't got to do that. You got
Gilbert Burns wasn't as successful at 155.
No, he got knocked out by Dan Hooker.
Yeah,
he
did.
He was getting knocked out because that weight cut, man. The last 3 days, there's no sodium, there's no carbs. You're getting all the water out of your glycogen storage. You're dehydrating everything.
Yeah.
And he has a very good rehydration protocol that I also used, and it rehydrates your whole digestive system and all of your organs, right? But man, it's hard to get rehydrated. You guys go to sleep. And then Gilbert went up to 170, and he's been an absolute top 3 contender terror at 170.
And
man.
like you look at Colby Covington, he's not a big 170 as well too. It will get to that point where people are going to stop cutting weight and they're more going to be fixated on performance.
Yep.
Because that's where it needs to be. You can do all the weight cutting you do, but it's not going to help for the lack of technique that you have.
What do you think about his upcoming fight against Michael Chandler?
I think
Dustin Chandler?
Yeah, I think that's Dustin Poirier will probably knock him out cold.
I think he's gonna.
Why I say that is because Chandler's been chinned a couple times.
Yeah.
And
It's going to be a hell of a fight.
I haven't seen Dustin Poirier get chinned.
It's going to be a hell of a fight.
Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a fight, but I think he's going to put Chandler to sleep pretty early.
Well, he just keeps coming forward, comes with that crazy overhand, and then tries to get in people's face. And I just don't see the same level of boxing.
No, that's what I agree with you. Like, I think that, like, yeah, he could do that to, like, Tony Ferguson, because Tony Ferguson's an awkward style. But when you meet those guys like Justin Gaethje or when it's Dustin Poirier, it's going to be a lot difficult. It's going to be more difficult to be able to get in that pocket and to keep at your range. Because Dustin Poirier, I think, is the taller guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
So we'd be able to dictate that range.
You know, it's something that's very, Dustin Poirier and yourself have something in common that I notice, because obviously when you watch fighters, you always imagine how would it feel to fight that guy?
Yeah.
What is it like? And one thing I'll say, sparring with you and then watching you fight, is you apply constant pressure and keep guys right at range, and you keep people on the end of your punches.
Yeah.
And that's why there's so much sting on it, right? And Dustin is so good at circling off and finding guys right at the end of his punches. When he gets guys hurt on the cage, he doesn't clinch, but he's not out of range. He keeps them right at the end of the punches, keeps the pressure on. And that's hard, man, that's tough because you can't, it's just like being the combatagon.
Yeah.
When someone has that pressure on you and they're right in range, you can't be breathing. It hurts the cardio. You're tight, you're flinching, you're covering your eyes. And guys like him, it's tough, man. Once they hurt you.
I sparred with one of the guys that works out with him, and he's like, I'm like, I got this mission, and I want to do this bully beatdown. I'm sitting here talking Chuck Buffalo and thinking he'll put me to sleep, but I got this mission. I want to actually, create content, get sparring content with guys like you, Gilbert Burns, Dustin, Cosmo, Kamaru. I'm sure everyone's gonna have a field day. Maybe I should stick to the body.
stick to body shots.
Stick to body shots. So I'm not fucking losing all the brain cells at once.
Speaking of guys that change weight classes, on the contrary, there's a guy that came down from 185 because he was a bad motherfucker, but realized he was too small for the division. Went down from 185 and has been having a lot of success at 170 in the UFC.
Yeah.
And Charlie, actually, we're waiting for the guy to commit to the match, but Kevin Holland, grappling match.
Oh,
this
dude,
month.
he's a beast, dog.
Yeah, for CFFC. And, like, Kevin Holland's a beast, too.
Yeah.
But, like, stylistically, if you think about that matchup.
He's a shit-talking motherfucker, dude.
He's great.
Y'all are a perfect match for each other. He's going to talk shit to you the whole time.
I love it. I love it. I'll talk to him as well. But, like, that stylistic matchup would be perfect because his style of jiu-jitsu and mine, it's just like there's good stylistic matchups and there's bad. I am a good stylistic matchup in terms that I know that I compete and can beat him. Mm-hmm. So
you mean you're more technical and he's more?
Well, I have a more athletic style, and like the only way that in terms of somebody that can beat me is a longer, lean De La Riva type of game, right? Which is strictly jiu-jitsu. That's the only trouble I've ever had in jiu-jitsu. Not a style like his,
right?
Because like even before this, we had talked about MMA grappling versus straight jiu-jitsu grappling. MMA grappling is an awful lot easier than it is for like straight jiu-jitsu because you don't have the De La Rivas.
For you, it is.
For me, it is. Yeah. But still, for his style, it's a bad matchup or my style is a bad matchup for him.
Well, let's look at this matchup with Jake Paul. Look, I think this Hasim had a better chance to actually do some damage than y'all do because after watching the sparring footage, I realized how much bigger.
Do you know what the only problem with him is though? He has no punching power.
Hasim Rahman Jr.?
Yeah, like so Terry Ellis was breaking
throws
down.
from the hips.
Don't do it from the studio. Do it from the YouTube. Yeah, but he held that whole Philly shell shit. I mean, What do you think about that? Do you ever do any of that stuff?
I don't do it for MMA purposes, but like I used to mess around with it when I used to box over in Chicago at Kelowna's gym.
Yeah. Look at him clowning on him about being short.
I mean, it looks like they're having a good time, doesn't it?
Well, it gets a little bit more intense. Apparently,
and I mean, you can already see like that Rockman is a lot bigger than he is.
A lot bigger.
a lot bigger, dude.
And I like his Philly. I like the Philly shell for boxing.
Why? What's the advantage of it? It's easier to play defense,
Well,
or
it's
what?
just because you don't have to worry about head kicks, really. Like
yeah.
if you're gonna do that for MMA, like there's certain people that use it, but
And
Yeah, Sean Strickland, how'd that work for
Cosmo
him?
would argue
Exactly.
the biggest thing Cosmo talks about is actually had the exact same conversation with them.
He
And-
broke somebody's arm in
Yeah.
a
So
class,
when you're a
dude.
Philly shell, what happens
Yes, Cosmo did.
is guys
Teaching him a lesson.
guys they want
Oh my
to
God.
block that open side body kick with just the arm, right? And you can do that with shin guards and sparring, right?
Yeah.
But Cosmo's telling him, he's like, man, you're gonna get your arm broken if you just keep blocking with the arm. You got to find it too, right? You got to find that thing.
You gotta
need it.
parry it down.
And Cosmo's telling him, hey, man, you got to block it. One day he got frustrated, went out there. He was like, listen, I'm going to spar with you real light. And Cosmo, he would have told us if he was kicking him hard. He said, I'm kicking him real light. And he threw it once, and the guy blocked it with just his arm. He's like, man, you got to find it. Next kick, Cosmo throws it up with shin guards real light. And the kid grabs his arm and runs off, broke his arm in half.
Jesus.
And,
Yeah, but that's what you get when you mess with a guy like Cosmo.
and you
Cosmo
don't listen.
is the best of the best.
Yeah, he's dropped me with some knees
Listen,
that it made me feel
if
dead.
you're boxing and you want to do the Philly style, do it because, you know, it is successful. But in terms of doing it for kickboxing or anything or MMA,
what is a cornerstone of the Philly shell? It's a completely bladed stance, right?
completely sideways.
What do that. You know what you can't do in a bladed stance is you can't check a kick.
No.
Yeah.
For shit.
no.
Get that thing chopped down. You're giving them all hamstring, man. You're not gonna be able to walk.
You know what?
That was tough.
I was about to say that's a stiff jab, but you could already notice that, like Paul's stature right now, he's kind of his body language kind of says it all.
He's trying.
gets a little bit more comfortable once
his
he realizes
poker face has probably gotten better.
That the dude's got tired. I think he's scared of his power right now. And apparently, part of the rules of this fight were that he had to fight southpaw.
He's not fighting southpaw.
Yeah, he's
though.
actually
not.
orthodox right now.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's eating him up with that left hand, though. Jake Paul can't get anywhere in range. See,
He's
that
using that
size
rear
difference
hand.
is killing him. But his all I'm saying,
but
saying is,
even what's funny when you look at this, like, okay, Rockman is probably good, right? But he's still not polished. Like
no,
you
he's
would-
not polished.
No.
He's fought cans.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie to you, man. I really don't know that he would have beat Jake. Like, it sounds crazy, but Jake Paul is a good athlete, and he's been boxing for 4 or 5 years. Is he a world?
This is 2.5 years ago, too.
Hell no.
Yeah, and also
This is before Woodley. This is before.
Yeah.
I mean, 2.5 years ago, he didn't even have.
Yeah, I mean, you think about your development in
I know.
2 years.
I know,
Like,
it's-
you better hope that you can kick the shit out of the person that was 2 years ago.
Right.
And boxing is just one of those things, man. I grew up with these two kids who ended up being pro boxers, and I went and I helped them with their weight cuts for a few years, and we'd go to Miami and they'd fight on Showtime cards and stuff. They both fought in the Lucien Butte camp, both southpaws, good boxers, Romanian kids. But I remember it was my first time being introduced to the sport of boxing, and I was like, "Hey, you're 7-0. Why is the guy you're fighting 0-12? Why is the guy you're fighting 1-22?"
That's why nobody watches boxing
nobody
matches
cares.
anymore. Is because you know who's
Bro,
gonna-
Ryan Garcia just fought like his second guy with a winning record. Like he has like 30 fucking fights. Doesn't make any sense. You're talking about world champions.
Yeah.
Imagine if Usman's like, yeah, I fought 2 guys with winning records and the rest were 1-17.
Yeah, he tried to say he's fighting all southpaw. He's not fighting all
Well,
southpaw.
you know,
He hasn't been in southpaw once.
No, he's not fighting southpaw now.
Oscar De La Hoya is holding on by a thin string right now, and he's trying to hold on to Ryan Garcia. You know, he gave him a fight, and also Ryan Garcia was battling through mental
health.
mental health issues, which is everybody goes through that stuff, and glad that he kind of spoke about it afterwards. But I mean, still, the only reason that he was given that fight was because of Oscar.
Do you think that he has kind of a, you know how Conor McGregor really had that fire and that dog in him, and then he achieved great levels of success and fame, and then it was harder for him to get out and fight. Nobody wants to get out of bed. What is it with the silk robe?
Yeah.
Do you think that Ryan Garcia achieved levels of fame and financial security too early, and now he just doesn't even? He's like, why do I want to fight Tank Davis? Why do I want to fight these guys? I'm a multi-millionaire. I'm a good-looking kid. I have all my brain cells.
He chased down Jake Paul and tried to fight him.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
That would not go well for him. He's way too small.
No,
way too small. Dude, he fights...
But maybe the financial security was the issue for him. But like that... But it's not about the financials at a certain point. It comes down to legacy, right? Like, what's the difference between Khabib and Conor? Yeah. Conor fought for the money and Khabib fought for legacy. And who ended up winning that battle? Khabib, because he fought for a greater purpose.
Well, Conor, I think the Conor on the rise was fighting for legacy.
No, he was fighting for money to make sure that his family was taken care of, and then he was fighting for the 2 belts.
Yeah.
He wasn't fighting for necessarily a legacy, I wouldn't believe. Like, every time you heard him talk, it was about the money. It was about the belts. It was about this.
Well, there's some good shots.
Speaking of Conor McGregor, man,
homie starts getting tired now, and
you know,
I'll fast forward this to like the last round where he really starts getting him a little bit, gets comfortable. He can tell he's tired. Now, is he southpaw right now?
He's southpaw now. Yeah, they must have been like, hey, halfway through this, we want you to switch southpaw.
Well, the whole attitude's changed with his demeanor. This is probably was probably more entertaining than the damn fight would have been. But they rented Madison Square Garden. I guess they didn't sell enough tickets. That's what Dana White said.
Well, see what Conor said.
Well,
so they only sold like
70,000
pay-per-view though.
Well, what really happened was, he signed a contract to fight him at 210 pounds because there's actually like a weight distribution. Like, you can't be more than 10% of body weight below, right? You've heard that?
You can only cut a certain amount of your body weight per what they do, like hydration tests.
Not just that, but like you can't. So say if Jake Paul's 195 pounds, he can't fight him at 210 pounds.
Yeah.
He has to fight him at 200, right? That's why they made the deal there. That's the only way that legally that could work. And they only do that in New York too. So he tried to pull a fast one on everybody by saying, I'm going to hold the weight as long as I possibly can. And then once they get to the fight event, I mean, they're going to, with all the tickets being sold, they're going to have to do this.
Right.
That's an old school boxing technique.
Yeah.
They've done that plenty of times before.
Right.
So,
I mean, it happened in my fight. The guy showed up 195 pounds.
Rockman fucked himself. Rockman fucked himself.
This is a big payday for him.
Yeah.
Here's the truth, though. Here's the truth. He probably did pull out his fight. It's a lose-lose. Because here's the truth. I didn't know who Hasim Rahman Jr. was at all until he was booked to fight Jake Paul. And now everyone in the world knows who he is. He didn't even have to fight Jake Paul.
I knew who he was.
He's treating the sparring match.
Well, I know. You know who his dad is. Everyone knows Hasim Rahman Sr.
He's on the roast. He says mental victory.
Hey, listen here.
You gotta respect.
Now they're fixing to start beefing. Now he's like, Hasim's like, I took it easy on you, man. Are you trying to talk shit? I'm handicapped. He told me southpaw.
Hey, if somebody made me go southpaw
watching that
through a fight, though, come on.
Watching that a second time, all the comments, all the boxers say that Jake he made himself look like an idiot celebrating a sparring win like that.
Here's the truth.
That made me laugh so hard when he said that. I was gonna say something like
he jumps up on the rope.
It's great.
Look, guys, if you're watching this, you're a fight fan, you want to grow your roofing business, you want to make $1 million in a year, you want to be on that jet, you want to be on the floor with us at Salt Lake watching this knockout. We're doing Usman's solar project. As soon as we're done, like when camp started, we had to stop the production, but we're gonna do the solar project, film it, go to the gym. I'm gonna get beat up. Maybe Charlie's gonna get some rounds with him. Hopefully we can do it over here at Evolution. And it's going to be a great time, man. Type in UFC 278 if you want a chance to win. We'll get you entered to win. If you go to the live events, we've got August 15th in Houston, August 16th in Austin, August 17th in Dallas. You can attend in person or through Zoom to 10x your chance to win. So just type in UFC 278 into the comments. We'll provide a link to the page. Chuck, how can they follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Chuck Buffalo MMA, and then also on Charles Radtke on Facebook as well too. So
listen, make sure you get to that UFC event with us. I want you to be there.
Yes. Let me tell you something. This guy is going to be on the big screen. He's going to be Up here, you're gonna know this, man.
Yeah.
We're gonna have
Buffalo.
your UFC cards on here autographed soon. I don't know if you saw the last episode, but we're mixing it up here in the boardroom. We're not just talking about money. We like violence too. So make sure that you subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. Hey, appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you too, guys.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.